who was like seeing? What was the? Somebody said that you could, in theory, do 10 films today. Has anybody done that?
Six.
So not that hard.
6? You've done 6 films?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's crazy.
that's amazing. Well done.
Crazy amazing is what that is. So Edgar, let me ask you. So there's a quote of a movie from a movie that I'm going to paraphrase. It's sometimes all I want to do is head west in a car I can't afford with a plan I don't have. Just me, my music, and the road. Can't think of a better description of Vanishing Point than that one line. What are your general thoughts about Vanishing Point as a film?
I think I had seen this probably the first time I saw it was on late night TV in the UK and was sort of aware of its reputation. But I think what's interesting about this film is it's not really a car chase movie. We were just talking before, it's like, I always see Vanishing Point as like a very fast road movie. Like it's interesting that I was reading about the inspirations for it, and it is like, has more in common with like Jack Kerouac's On the Road than Bullet, even though it has a lot of the Bullet crew working on it. And I always like put these films, it's interesting, obviously, you know, this film is kind of like a synthesis, obviously with Bullet being a massive hit in 1968, and this came out the same year as The French Connection.
That's right, 71.
But this film is kind of like a synthesis of like the sort of Bullet and Easy Rider, and I always kind of put this in the same like group of movies, and there are many others, but the three that come to mind is like Vanishing Point, Two Lane Blacktop, and Electric Light and Blue, that all have the what I call the studio bummer ending. Although, I mean, I have to say, who has not seen the film before? Okay, so we're going to try and talk about it without ruining the ending. But it's quite a difficult film to kind of, there's a lot to talk about in the ending, so we'll try and allude to it without ruining it. But I think what's interesting about this film is that it is like an existential, like, car movie, and I think it's like, it's less about the race and more about the journey. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree. And you mentioned something earlier about that there's not really a single set piece car chase or car stunt sequence in this film. It's really more integrated throughout the entire film. It's just sort of interwoven. How do you sustain a movie without a single set piece? I mean, you've directed car chases.
Yeah, listen, I mean, car chases are really, you know, and I did Baby Driver in your hometown of Atlanta. Car chases are really hard to do. Like, they're incredibly, like, sort of just, complicated, and, you know, especially if you're being safe, you know, you kind of really have to sort of just work, like, hard on every single sort of moving part of both the scene and the cars themselves is, like, a lot of work. This, on the other hand, I think one of the things that is interesting in just reading about the making of it is that it's almost like the making of the movie and the plot of the movie probably had a lot in common with each other. And so the filmmakers kind of go on the same journey as Barry Newman as Kowalski in there. And, you know, Richard C. Sarafian, they made it with a pretty small crew. Like, it's a studio movie, and it was made for under like $1 million, and they only had an 18-person crew. So they could, as you'll see for the people who haven't seen it, they traveled long distances in the movie, and also probably had the ability to kind of just find locations at random.
That's right.
Like, I think there's a lot of bits in the movie where, like, I was listening to the commentary on the Blu-ray, and they said that they would look at when they were location scouting or even just filming, they would pull off the highway and find something that's probably never been on film before.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting, those films. The other film it sort of reminds me of in a weird way is that Jerry Schatzberg film Scarecrow, because it really is like a sort of like much more like a road movie than an action movie. And but of course with insane stunt work all the way through, and it's also just it's a fascinating sort of film. I want to sort of talk a little bit about the ending without blowing it, but I always had this theory, and this comes early on in the movie. I was saying about it being a bummer ending, but it's not quite that. I don't think it's quite like Easy Rider. If any